Take that, you clumsy fool! My eyes, what have you done?
Stop this at once! The gala!
She ruined my night! I'm covered in paint!
Everyone, calm down!
Paint dripped down her face. The whole room went quiet. Nobody knew the one person who could end it all was standing at the top of the stairs, watching everything. By midnight, one woman would lose the life she built her whole world around, and the girl covered in paint would gain something she never asked for and never saw coming. If you like stories where quiet people finally win, stay till the end. The last twist changes everything you just watched. And if stories like this hit you right, hit subscribe. There's more waiting. Peyton Marsh never expected the world to hand her anything. She learned that the hard way, a long time ago. Every morning, before the sun touched the windows of the Halsey estate, Peyton was already awake, already moving, already working, while the family upstairs still slept in silk sheets that cost more than her rent. She was 26. Some days she looked older, tired around the eyes, in a way 26-year-olds shouldn't look. She had a little sister, Skylar, 14, sharp as a tack. And Peyton was the only parent Skylar had ever really known. Their mom died when Skylar was 6. Their dad left before that. So Peyton worked. She scrubbed marble floors. She pressed shirts worth more than her paycheck. She served food to people who never once said her name. She didn't complain. Complaining didn't pay rent. Complaining didn't keep Skylar in school. So Peyton kept her head down and kept moving, because giving up was never really an option for a girl like her. The mansion belonged to Grant Halsey. His name opened doors in every major city on the East Coast. He built his company from a garage and a maxed-out credit card. People in boardrooms called him sharp, cold, unshakable. But people who actually worked in his house knew something different. Grant noticed things rich men usually didn't. He remembered the names of the people who cleaned his floors. He asked about their families. He treated the invisible people like they were visible. Peyton had worked for him almost 2 years. She didn't admire him because of his money. She admired him because he was one of the only people who ever looked at her like she mattered. On her worst days, when her feet ached and her hands cracked from cleaning solution, that small fact was enough to get her through the door the next morning. Grant was engaged to Brooke Sinclair. Brooke was beautiful in the way magazine covers are beautiful. Polished, sharp-edged, practiced. She came from old money and older rules. Appearance was everything to Brooke. She smiled the kind of smile that made a room feel like it belonged to her. But behind the smile, Brooke was starving for something she could never quite name. She needed to be adored. She needed to be the only thing anyone noticed. And lately, something small had started eating at her. A splinter she couldn't pull out. It started small. Grant thanking Peyton for remembering exactly how he liked his coffee. Grant mentioning, at a business dinner, that he wished more people worked with Peyton's kind of quiet dedication. None of it meant anything. But to Brooke, every kind word Grant gave someone else felt like a word stolen from her. She started watching Peyton, not with curiosity, with something colder. It didn't stay quiet for long. Brooke started finding reasons to walk through the staff hallways, the ones guests never used. She'd stand in doorways just long enough to see who Grant spoke to, and for how long. She kept a mental list of every small kindness he handed out that wasn't aimed at her. The list grew heavier every week. One afternoon, she cornered Peyton near the kitchen pantry, arms crossed, voice syrup sweet in the way that means the opposite. "You've been here 2 years," Brooke said. "Must be nice. Getting so comfortable in someone else's house." Peyton said nothing. Saying nothing had kept her employed for 2 years. She wasn't about to break that streak over a pantry conversation. Brooke smiled without warmth and walked away. But something had shifted. From that day on, Peyton's tasks got heavier. Her breaks got shorter. Small, deniable things. The kind no one could ever prove were personal. Here's what nobody in that house knew yet. Peyton had a secret of her own. One that would matter a lot more than anyone realized. But not yet. Not until the night everything broke. The head housekeeper, an older woman named Odessa Price, had run that house for 15 years. She'd seen girls like Peyton come and go. She'd learned to spot trouble before it turned loud. One evening, after Brooke snapped at Peyton over towels folded the wrong way, Odessa pulled her aside. Keep your head down, Odessa said, hands steady on Peyton's shoulders. Some people need somebody smaller to feel bigger. Don't give her a reason. Just keep doing what you do. Peyton nodded. That's what she always did. Kept her head down. Worked harder. Told herself Brooke's coldness was just wedding stress. Told herself it would pass. It didn't pass. It got worse. That same week, Skylar came home from school with a permission slip for a science trip. $40. Due Friday. Peyton looked at the slip on the kitchen table for a long time before she signed it. $40 was grocery money, and $40 was a bus pass. She signed it anyway, because Skylar deserved to go on the trip like every other kid in her class, and because Peyton had promised herself a long time ago that her sister would never know exactly how tight things really were. You okay? Skylar asked, watching her sister's face. Always, Peyton said, and smiled the kind of smile that took practice. Skylar didn't push, she never did. But she noticed the shadows under Peyton's eyes getting darker every week, and she noticed her sister flinching a little whenever her phone buzzed with a message from the estate. She didn't know why. She just knew something at that house had gotten heavier. The engagement party was supposed to be the event of the year. Grant's business partners, childhood friends, half the city's elite, all invited. Brooke spent weeks obsessing over every detail: lighting, menus, music, seating charts color-coded by importance. She wanted the night flawless. She wanted, more than anything, to finally feel like she belonged in Grant's world instead of just visiting it. One of her ideas, a live art corner, a hired painter creating abstract canvases while guests sipped champagne nearby. Modern, elegant, a talking point. Cans of paint and brushes sat stacked near the west wall of the ballroom, close enough to the stage to catch the light. Peyton had been assigned to help set that corner up, hauling supplies back and forth while Brooke hovered, correcting every little thing. Not there, Brooke snapped when Peyton set a canvas an inch too far left. Do I have to do everything myself? Peyton moved it, said nothing. It was easier that way. Skylar had asked her that morning if she was nervous about the party. Peyton told her no. She lied. Something about that day felt heavier than usual, like weather pressing down before a storm nobody had forecast yet. By evening, the mansion looked like something out of a movie. Chandeliers threw gold light across marble floors. A string quartet played low in the background. Laughter floated through every hallway. Peyton moved through the crowd quiet as smoke, refilling glasses, clearing plates, invisible the way good staff always are. Grant, sharp in a simple black suit, worked the room, nodding at staff whenever their eyes crossed his. A small habit, a respectful one. For a moment, things felt almost peaceful. Peyton let herself relax, just slightly, refilling a glass of champagne near the string quartet. She thought maybe the night would pass without incident after all. She was wrong. Then a young server, nervous under all those important eyes, spilled a full tray of drinks near the table, where Brooke stood with Grant's biggest business partners. Peyton wasn't even near that table, but Brooke, already stretched thin from weeks of pressure, spun around looking for someone to blame. Her eyes landed on Peyton, who happened to be walking past with a tray in her hands. "You!" Brooke snapped, loud enough that heads turned. "Do you have any idea what tonight means to me? And you can't even do the simplest thing right?" Peyton froze, confused. She hadn't touched that table. She opened her mouth to explain. Brooke wasn't listening. Weeks of jealousy, weeks of insecurity, she never let herself feel. All of it rose up at once, looking for somewhere to land. Her eyes dropped to the paint cans a few feet away, the ones from her own art display. Before Peyton understood what was happening, Brooke grabbed an open can and threw it straight at her. Cold, thick paint splattered across Peyton's face, down her collar, soaking into the uniform she'd ironed herself hours earlier. The room went silent. Then, worse than silence, a few nervous laughs from guests who didn't know what else to do with what they'd just seen. Peyton stood frozen, paint dripping off her chin, her hands trembling at her sides. She didn't cry. She didn't yell back. She just stood there and took it, her dignity the only thing left that was still hers. Brooke, breathing hard, realized a second too late what she'd just done. What nobody in that ballroom knew. Grant had stepped away minutes earlier to take a call from the top of the staircase overlooking the room. He saw all of it. Every second. He saw the accusation. He saw the can lifted. He saw it thrown. He saw Peyton standing there, silent, absorbing something she didn't deserve. Something inside him shifted, permanently. He came down the stairs slow, each step deliberate, face unreadable. The crowd noticed him first. A hush rolled through the room like a wave. Brooke turned. Her face went pale. She realized her fiancé had seen everything. Grant didn't raise his voice. He never did. He walked straight to Peyton first, close enough that only she and the people nearest could hear him ask if she was okay. Then he turned to Brooke. His voice, calm, carried through the silent room anyway. "Why did you do that?" Brooke's mouth opened and closed. She reached for excuses. The spilled drinks, the stress, the pressure of hosting. Grant shook his head slowly. "This isn't about tonight," he said. "I've watched this for months. The way you talk to her, the way you talk to all of them, whenever you think nobody important is watching. I told myself I was imagining it. I wasn't." He let that sit. Guests shifted, uncomfortable, some suddenly remembering small moments they'd seen and chosen to ignore. "Character doesn't show in how you treat people who can help you," Grant said. "It shows in how you treat people who can't do anything for you. Tonight, you showed me exactly who you are." He reached for her hand, gently, almost tender, and slid the ring off her finger. Quiet. But in a room full of witnesses, it landed like a verdict. Brooke stood there, stunned, watching her whole carefully built world collapse in front of the exact people she'd spent years trying to impress. Here's where the story should have ended. A clean win. A cruel woman exposed. A quiet girl finally seen. But 3 days later, something happened that nobody expected, least of all Peyton. Odessa Price, the same woman who'd told Peyton to keep her head down, who'd watched over her for 2 years like a second mother, called Peyton into the laundry room and closed the door. "I need you to leave," Odessa said, flat. No warmth left in her voice at all. Peyton blinked. "What?" "Mr. Halsey is going to offer you something. A new job, money, attention. I need you to say no and walk away before he does." Peyton felt the floor tilt under her. "Why would you ask me that?" Odessa's jaw tightened. "Because I've worked in this house 15 years, Peyton. 15. I raised my own kids on this paycheck, and the second a rich man notices someone new, the rest of us disappear. You think you're special to him. You're not. You're convenient. And when he's done being interested, I'm the one who has to hire your replacement and explain to my own daughter why we're still driving a car with 200,000 miles on it." "That's not fair," Peyton said quietly. "I never asked for any of this." "Doesn't matter what you asked for," Odessa said. "Matters what happens after. I've watched it before. Girl gets noticed. Girl gets promoted. Girl gets comfortable. Then the next pretty face walks through that door, and suddenly, the girl who got noticed is packing a box in the parking lot with no severance and no reference letter. I'm trying to save you 6 months of heartbreak. Or you're trying to save your own job," Peyton said. The words left her mouth before she could stop them. Odessa's face went still. Peyton stared at the woman who'd protected her since her first week in that house. The woman who told her to keep her head down. Who she trusted more than almost anyone alive. "You knew," Peyton said quietly, "about Brooke, about all of it. And you never said anything to him." Odessa's eyes flicked away. "Saying something gets you fired. Staying quiet gets you a pension." That was the moment it broke. Not the paint. Not Brooke's scream in front of 200 guests. This, a woman she trusted, choosing her own comfort over Peyton's dignity and asking Peyton to disappear quietly so nobody's paycheck got disrupted. Peyton didn't argue. She nodded once, turned, and walked out of the laundry room without another word. That night, Peyton sat on the edge of Skylar's bed after her sister fell asleep, and she didn't cry, and she didn't call anyone, and she didn't write anything down. She just sat there in the dark for a long time, one hand resting on the blanket, saying nothing at all. Some moments don't need words. This was one of them. 3 days after the party, Grant asked to see Peyton privately. First time in 2 years he'd ever asked her into his study. She walked in expecting to be let go. Instead, Grant stood when she entered, a small gesture that caught her off guard completely. She'd spent 2 years watching him stand for business partners, for clients, for anyone whose name mattered. Never once for her. He apologized. Direct, sincere, told her what happened at the party should never have happened, and that it took him too long to notice how she'd been treated. "I keep replaying it," he said, "watching from those stairs. I keep thinking about how long it took me to walk down." "You walked down," Peyton said quietly. "That's more than most people would have done." He shook his head, like that answer wasn't good enough for him. Then he offered her a new position. Better pay, better hours, real respect. And almost as an afterthought, he mentioned he'd already arranged for Skylar to attend one of the best schools in the city, fully paid. Peyton sat there overwhelmed, her hands gripping the arms of the chair like she needed something solid to hold on to. This was the moment. This was the choice that would either close the door on the last 2 years quietly or blow it open completely. And here is her irreversible decision, the one she couldn't undo once she made it. She told him everything. About Odessa, about the warning in the laundry room, about being asked to disappear quietly so the house could keep running the way it always had. She knew what saying it meant. Odessa had been kind to her once. Odessa had also just tried to protect her own paycheck at Peyton's expense. Peyton chose truth over loyalty to a woman who chose comfort over her. There was no taking it back once she said it out loud. Grant listened without interrupting. When she finished, his face didn't show anger. It showed something quieter, disappointment maybe, or understanding that his house ran on more silence than he'd ever realized. "Thank you for telling me," he said. That was all. Word spread fast through the circles Brooke used to rule. Invitations stopped. Friends stopped calling back. Her own family, embarrassed by the public collapse of her engagement, quietly stepped away from her too, unwilling to be tied to a story the whole city was already talking about. Brooke reached out to Grant once, asking for a private conversation, hoping for one more chance to explain, to apologize, to rebuild something. Grant agreed to see her, out of respect for the years they'd shared. She showed up in the same coat she'd worn the night they got engaged, like the memory of that night might soften what came next. It didn't. When she started her apology, he stopped her gently. "I'm not upset because you embarrassed me," he said. "I'm upset because you showed me who you really are, and I almost married someone I didn't actually know. Respect isn't something you apologize your way back into. Once it's gone, it's gone." Brooke sat there a long moment, waiting for him to change his mind. He didn't. She left with nothing left to say, finally understanding that some doors, once closed, do not open again, no matter how hard you knock. Odessa Price was quietly moved to a different property Grant owned 2 states away. Same pay, same title, but nowhere near the people she'd tried to manage into silence. Grant never told her why. He didn't have to. She already knew. A few weeks later, a card arrived at the Halsey estate addressed to Peyton. No return address. Inside, just one line in Odessa's handwriting. "I was scared. Not cruel. I hope you understand the difference someday." Peyton read it twice, folded it, and put it in a drawer. She didn't write back. Some apologies don't need an answer. They just need to exist. Peyton stepped into her new role with the same quiet dedication she'd always carried, except now she walked through those halls a little taller. Skylar thrived at her new school, came home every day with stories that made years of hard mornings finally feel worth something. Peyton framed Skylar's first report card from the new school and hung it in the hallway of their apartment, right by the front door, where she'd see it every single morning before work. And here is the part that rewrites everything you just read. Peyton never told Grant the whole truth. Not the part where, 2 years earlier, before she ever took this job, she'd worked for Brooke's family and left after Brooke's mother had her fired over a missing bracelet Peyton never touched. She'd walked into the Halsey house already knowing exactly who Brooke was, already carrying a reason to want her gone. She remembered the exact day she saw the job posting for the Halsey estate, and the exact moment she saw Brooke's name listed as the fiancé in the paperwork. She remembered sitting in her car outside the interview, hands on the wheel, deciding whether to walk away or walk in. She walked in, not for revenge, for the paycheck, for Skylar's tuition, for a life that didn't bend to people like Brooke anymore. She never used what she knew. She never needed to. Brooke did the work herself, one paint can at a time. But Peyton carried that history quietly into every interaction for 2 years, and never once let it show. Not because she was innocent of feeling something when Brooke fell, because she was patient enough to let the truth arrive on its own, without her fingerprints on it. Some people wait for justice. Others just wait for the truth to run out of places to hide. Kindness moves quiet. So does history. And sometimes, the person who looks the most invisible in the room is the only one who already knows exactly how the story ends. If this hit you, if you believe quiet people carry more than anyone gives them credit for, like this video, share it with someone who needs it today, and subscribe. There are more stories like this one still waiting.